Okay, I heard you say earlier that you don't consider Burrard part of the West End, and as someone who lives on Burrard, I've got to tell you, we do consider ourselves part of the West End. However, my question has to do with actual light, not just view corridors. I live actually on the corner of the northwest corner of Pacific and Burrard, and we have commercial electronics going up with a 17th-story one. We, of course, have the Toyota project. We have whatever's going to be happening where the community garden and the gas station are. And I understand you have plans for some sort of Burrard other gateway, literally diagonally across the street. And I'm wondering how the lack of light is going to impact on us all. We are a neighborhood there, and all of a sudden we're just assaulted with all these giant buildings within really a 2-block area, from Davie down to where the bridge is. Thank you.
Thank you.
We think it's a great point. Is Frank Ducote here tonight? I think Frank made that point at the session last Monday. And we definitely agree. Light access is as important as view protection. And many of our guidelines that relate to shaping and sculpting buildings are about doing the best we can in the context of new buildings to protect access to light. So as an example, in Kevin's presentation where we showed shadow impact, shadow being the reverse of light, essentially, was a key driver of our decision about where tall towers should be and where they shouldn't. Particularly light access on public spaces like Granville or the intersection of Burrard and Davie, or just in general. And once we get down to the rezoning level, often the way a building is shaped, if you've ever wondered why buildings in Vancouver are shaped the way that they are, it's often to address not only private views, but also light access. We do a very detailed light analysis that can lead to the stepping back of buildings, the shaping of buildings, the pulling back of buildings at corners. And that's a very vigorous thing that we analyze at later stages.
I totally understand shaping buildings, exactly what you're talking about. But what I'm talking about is we are all of a sudden have, I believe, 7 buildings coming in with a fairly short time frame. And it really is going to affect our light. I don't care how you design the buildings, because there are these very large buildings that are going to be there. Well, and of course, I'm interested in what you have a plan for literally across the street at the Burrard Street Bridge, because that's the corner of the, let's see, the southeast corner, where the urban gardener and all those, and the seafood restaurant and all of that. I understand that that's definitely part of your plan. It's right next to the bridge.
Okay, you can answer that, but because I want us to all be operating from the same information, I'll respond to a couple of comments you made. First of all, we don't at all expect that these 7 buildings would come in on a relatively short time frame, as you said. I actually believe strongly that what we're talking about is establishing a pattern for height that will really occur over a generation or more. Let me just say this, ma'am. We expect that, for example, the Burrard Toyota building is already the subject of a proposal. Has not been approved, but it is in and is being reviewed. So that is probably the earliest building that might come, which, if approved by council, may come, in the next 5 years or so. By comparison, the tallest potential building of the 7, the Tiffany site in the CBD, has an existing very probably successful or appropriate office building on it. And it probably, in my opinion, won't go through a redevelopment proposal in years, maybe within our lifetime, because it's got a pre-existing building. But the point of planning is it's long-term thinking. It answers the question over the long term where these buildings will be, and then the timing of each of the 7 will happen very differently. So in my very strong opinion is that the 7 will not happen within a short time frame. They will be scattered over a generation. And to your point, which we really do respect and agree with, the light access, it would be different if all 7 of them were clustered and you really start to get that cumulative impact of light. But because the 7 buildings we're talking about are fairly distributed throughout the downtown area, we're confident that at the zoning stage and when we get into the design, we're going to be able to address the issue of light access because we don't have a cumulative clustering.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay, we have time for about one more question. I understand the staff will probably be around for a few minutes afterwards if you'd like to ask a few more questions. And then also, again, we encourage you to take your comments and concerns forward to the council meeting on Thursday evening as well. So, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, who's ours?
Okay. Brent and Kevin, as I understand it, the Chinatown and Chinatown South is part of the downtown east side, as you define it.
That's correct.
And I am interested in your thinking. The scoping of the integrated community plan for the downtown east side, or community strategy, that's still hanging in the air. You guys chose not to put forward a interim rezoning policy for the Main and Hastings in advance of that integrated strategy or scoping. And yet you chose to go ahead with the interim policy on the Chinatown South in advance of it. And I'm a bit confused because my understanding of an integrated strategy is that people in all subsectors of the downtown east side have an interest in the entire community. What was your thinking to make that differentiation in approach to Chinatown South and Main and Hastings?
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's a very detailed question, so forgive me the people who are less interested in that kind of a nuance, but I'll respect the question. In each case, I think we look at the complexity of issues that might be related. In the DEOD work, if you know that, it's got some very interesting and potentially controversial questions related to it, a particular one being the requirement for social housing on the site, which has really, in essence, kept anything physically from happening in the area. That's going to be a very tough discussion to have, and a discussion that we felt could not be separated from the broader downtown east side strategy. We felt that it's so ingrained with everything that's going to be dealt with and brought up by the community in the broader strategy that it really needed to wait for that. In other cases in Chinatown South, for example, we felt that we knew enough to answer the question on height. Now, we've heard from many individuals in the public that felt that height is one of those issues that is so ingrained that it should wait, and I don't disagree with that in a sense. It's always a constant debate. But I will say this, given that there was so much pressure on the issue of height, so much speculation, land was changing hands, even as we spoke in early months of this process. For better or for worse, the feeling was we had to bring clarity to the issue of height and couldn't necessarily wait for the broader, what's going to be a very complex and comprehensive dialogue on the downtown east side strategy. And I think to a certain extent, although that a lot of folks don't agree with that perspective, what it has done is bring clarity and really suppress speculation in the area. And that was a key concern for us.
I just would like to add one small clarification as well. In January, Council asked us to consider the interim policy in DEOD for the purposes of considering innovative affordable housing projects, and that's the part that we did not come up with an interim policy. But the area is still in the rezoning policy that's going forward. However, the requirements that are in the current zoning for social housing would have to be met in any proposals that come forward. So I just wanted to clarify that a rezoning proposal could come forward in that area if it met the current social housing requirements.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everyone. That is the end of our meeting this evening, and I'd like to thank you for your patience and your questions and for coming out and listening. We appreciate that you were so patient with us. And again, if you'd like to stick around and ask a couple more questions offline with the city staff, they'll be happy to take care of you. Otherwise, we hope to see you at the council meeting.
And I'd just like to thank everyone as well. We know this has been a very challenging exercise. We will stick around. We'll do our best to answer your questions. Thank you.